the day my sister and I chose our husbands. My sister suddenly abandoned the top scholar father had selected for her. Instead, she turned and chose that ninth-rank military officer. I knew then, she too had been reborn. In our previous lives. On the day of the mid-autumn banquet at the mansion, father arranged marriages for both my sister Song Yun-chu and me. My sister chose Lu Mingzhou, a man of top scholar caliber. As for me, I was forced to accept the ninth-rank military officer Zhuang Henian. Sister, you can forget about being the top scholar's wife. A ninth-rank officer may not match the top scholar, but he's still an official. It's the perfect match for you. This lifetime. The moment she reincarnated, Song Yun-chu eagerly declared first, I choose Zhuang Henian. I'll gladly let you have the unparalleled wealth and prestige of being the top scholar's wife. No sooner had the words left her mouth than her birth mother, Lady Qin, snapped at her. Yun-chu, what nonsense are you spouting? A ninth-rank military officer? A monthly salary of 3 taels of silver? Not even worth a dog's bark. Do you plan to starve to death over there? Lady Qin flew into a rage. She abandoned all decorum befitting a matriarch, pointing an accusing finger at Song Yun-chu as she hurled insults. Seeing this, Song Yun-chu stepped forward and whispered a few words into Lady Qin's ear. Lady Qin's fury turned to shock as she stared at Song Yun-chu in disbelief. How did you learn of this? Such matters cannot be based on hearsay. Mother, please calm your mind. How could I dare gamble with my own future? Song Yun-chu's expression was sincere. Madame Qin scrutinized her suspiciously for a long moment before finally nodding. I needn't guess, Song Yun-chu must have revealed Zhuang Henian's origins to Madame Qin. Otherwise, given Madame Qin's temperament, even if Song Yun-chu threatened to die today, she wouldn't consent to her sister marrying Zhuang Henian. After all, Madame Qin had just declared a ninth-rank military officer not even worth a dog's life. Whether a ninth-rank military officer was worse than a dog, I couldn't say. But I knew Zhuang Henian was worse than swine or dogs. In her previous life, Song Yun-chu, adorned in phoenix crown and bridal robes, had entered the Lu household in a procession of 10-mile red splendor. Even before Lu Mingzhou had taken the provincial exams, Song Yun-chu carried herself as the wife of the top scholar, always feeling superior to everyone around her. Yet, just as she was basking in her arrogance, Lu Mingzhou failed the examination. Her status as the top scholar's wife became a laughingstock throughout the imperial capital. Wherever she went, people mocked her for living in a fantasy. She desperately sought a divorce from Lu Mingzhou. But her father, protective of his reputation, naturally refused to let her do so. Lu Mingzhou's failure in the imperial examinations was known throughout the city. If Song Yun-chu divorced Lu Mingzhou now, whatever the reason, the Song family would be unable to explain it away. They would inevitably bear the stigma of ingratitude. Madame Qin urged her to wait a little longer. This time he hadn't succeeded, but perhaps next time he would pass. My sister gritted her teeth and endured for 3 years. Who would have thought that Lu Mingzhou would fail the exams again? Before Madame Qin could even go to plead with her father, my sister had already thrown the Lu household into utter chaos. Failure in the imperial examinations and domestic turmoil, these twin blows stripped Lu Mingzhou of all dignity. In a fit of rage, Lu Mingzhou divorced his sister outright. Upon learning this, father knelt in the ancestral hall all night, eventually being carried out unconscious. For a century, the Su family had never known a daughter divorced by her husband. This time, the younger sister had undeniably nailed father and the entire Song family to the pillar of shame among the great clans. When father awoke, he uttered only one sentence, "Let her die outside." The Song family has no place for such a disgraceful daughter. Seeing father so enraged, Lady Qin dared not say more. She could only secretly sell off her own dowry to buy her sister a detached courtyard, providing her with a temporary refuge. She hoped that once father's anger subsided, she could bring her sister back home. Song Yunchu sought me out, hoping I could persuade father to allow her return. Though my sister and I had our differences, there was no deep-seated hatred between us. When I was 3, mother passed away from illness. Before the 100-day mourning period had ended, father married Lady Qin. From that day forward, I was raised under Lady Qin's care. Her treatment of me was not harsh, but it was hardly kind either. Out of gratitude for her kindness, I agreed to plead her case before my father. Unexpectedly, not only did he refuse, but he also expelled Song Yunchu from the annex. Misled by servants' slander, Song Yunchu believed I had deliberately added insult to injury by speaking ill of her to my father, otherwise he wouldn't have treated her so ruthlessly. Just then, Zhuang Henian was recognized as his true heir, instantly becoming the legitimate son of the Marquis's household. I, in turn, became the young mistress of the Marquis's residence. This filled Song Yunchu with utter hatred toward me. On the day of the Marquisate banquet, Song Yunchu feigned kindness by dressing me. Then, when I was off guard, she stabbed me 27 times, slowly torturing me to death. Thus, after reincarnating in this life, she was desperate to marry Zhuang Henian. Even though Zhuang Henian now possessed only 3 dilapidated thatched cottages and a paralyzed foster mother, Song Yunchu found it sweet as honey. In the previous life, Zhuang Henian's betrothal gift consisted solely of a pair of steamed flower swans. His monthly stipend of 3 taels of silver scarcely covered the cost of medicinal soups for his mother. To secure this marriage, he scraped together 10 taels of silver through loans. After settling all his affairs, Zhuang Henian had just enough left to purchase the symbolic betrothal geese. This time around, Song Yunchu knew Zhuang Henian's family couldn't afford the dowry. She sent him 200 taels directly, instructing him to ensure the ceremony was properly grand. Unexpectedly, Zhuang Henian's creditors heard the news and swarmed his home demanding repayment. The 200 taels were swiftly divided among them. Come the day of the betrothal gifts, Zhuang Henian still presented only a pair of steamed flower geese. Contrast this with the Liu family's gifts piled high like a mountain. Song Yunchu and Mrs. Qin were so enraged their faces turned green. Unwilling to accept this, mother and daughter staged a little act for their father. Father, Henian has already spent every last penny treating his mother. It's only natural he can't afford these mundane things. Song Yunchu deliberately spoke loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. The Liu family is wealthy and well-educated. How could scholars ever care for such trivialities? Let me take all these Liu family betrothal gifts with me. No sooner had Song Yunchu finished speaking than her father immediately scolded. What nonsense is this? Madame Qin hurriedly explained for Song Yunchu, husband. Yunchu didn't mean it that way. Do you know what people are saying about our Song family outside right now? Madame Qin knew exactly where her father's weak spot lay, and abruptly changed the subject. Father instantly grew agitated. The Song family's reputation meant more to him than anything. What are they saying? Seeing his reaction, Madame Qin's eyes reddened. Her voice trembled with feigned sorrow. They say our Song family is buy one, get one free. To climb the social ladder by marrying off our daughter to a 9th-ranked military officer, a man not even a dog would look at. Reaching the emotional peak of her speech, Madame Qin pretended to wipe away tears. Father flew into a rage. Nonsense. Who said that? I'll have the authorities arrest them this very moment. Madame Qin immediately snapped at father. The whole capital is talking about it. Do you think you can arrest everyone? Instead of arguing with others, you should focus on silencing the rumors. Father's expression faltered, and he reluctantly suppressed his anger. Seeing his capitulation, Lady Qin seized the initiative. In my opinion, we should divide these betrothal gifts equally. Give both daughters identical dowries, treat them with perfect fairness. Then let's see who dares to gossip. Father's expression darkened slightly as he weighed her words. Equal treatment. without bias, even if gossip resurfaced later. He could counter it with this justification. After a moment's consideration, Father deemed Madame Chin's proposal excellent. He nodded in agreement. Seeing Madame Chin's scheming about to succeed, I had to speak up. In my previous life, not only did Lady Chin seize my mother's dowry, she also failed to deliver the 10 dowry carriages promised to me. On my wedding day, I married Zhuang Henian alone, without a single dowry carriage. Afterward, Lady Chin claimed the servants had made a mistake, carrying my share into the Zhuang household as well. Then the matter was simply swept under the rug. This lifetime, I absolutely cannot allow such a thing to happen again. Father, have you considered the Liu family? At these words, Father's expression froze once more. What of the Liu family? I rose slowly and spoke. Liu Mingzhou's great-grandfather was a third-class scholar, holding a rank of junior third grade. His mother, Lady Liu, descends from the Yongning Marquis. Though her family has fallen on hard times, she remains of noble lineage. Now Liu Mingzhou's fame echoes throughout the imperial capital, with the head of the academy predicting he'll be the top scholar. Yet now, with the Song and Liu families uniting through marriage, not only are you refusing to provide a dowry, Father, but you're even skimping on the betrothal gifts. Do you look down on the Liu family? Or are you deliberately trying to humiliate them? Hearing this, Father immediately grew flustered. Nonsense. I never meant that. I seized upon his words, pressing relentlessly. If you didn't mean that, Father, then why are you doing things to humiliate the Liu family? On the wedding day, not only will the Liu family's relatives and friends be present, but even the head of the academy will attend. The Liu family provided 12 cartloads of betrothal gifts, and I brought back 6 cartloads of dowry. If this isn't humiliating the Liu family, then what is it? My father was rendered speechless by my sharp retort. An awkward flush spread across his face. Song Yunchu immediately interjected, Sister, that's not right. What do you mean skimping on the dowry? Mother said we'd split it evenly between us. Sister, you're only thinking of the Liu family. Don't you care about our Song family at all? With all this talk outside about our family, are we just going to ignore it? Song Yunchu and Lady Chin exchanged sharp retorts, but Father remained utterly unmoved. When it came to the Song family's future and reputation, Father always maintained his clarity. Enough! Father thundered. Whoever gave the dowry may take it back. As for the trousseau left by Jinxing's late mother, let her take it all, that shall be her dowry. Regardless, the face of the top scholar must not be diminished in the slightest. Upon hearing this, Song Yunchu immediately grew anxious. Father, what about me? Are you going to stand by and watch me become a laughingstock? Madame Chin followed suit, wiping away tears as she pleaded, Master, you cannot be so biased. Irritated by their quarrel, Father snapped coldly, what favoritism? Ruojin's dowry was her mother's lifetime gift, it rightfully belongs to her. If you're so concerned for your daughter, give her all your dowry. I won't utter a word. With that, Father swept out. Song Yunchu turned to look at Qin Duanzi. Madame Qin sat there wailing, lamenting how bitter her fate was. That very night, Song Yunchu and Madame Qin came to blows. Mother, if you let me take only this much with me, won't I lose all dignity? Song Ruojin's dowry totals at least 30 palanquins. Mine doesn't even reach 10. I don't care. I want 30 palanquins of dowry too. Song Yunchu roared at Qin Duanzi. Even separated by a courtyard, I could hear every word clearly. 30 palanquins? Your mother's entire dowry didn't even reach 20 palanquins. Where am I supposed to get 30 for you? Zhuang Henian's family is dirt poor. I told you not to marry him, but you insisted. This disgrace is entirely your own doing. Mid-June, Father arranged for Song Yunchu and me to marry simultaneously for the auspicious double celebration. When Song Yunchu saw her bridal sedan was merely a small four-man palanquin, she refused to enter. Father ordered servants to force her inside. Meanwhile, I rode in an 8-man sedan, followed by 30 palanquins of dowry, entering the Liu household amid fanfare and music. After all formalities concluded, I sat in my chamber from dawn until deep into the night. Lu Mingzhou entered unhurriedly, several books in hand. The imperial examinations approach. I must review my studies. You should retire early. Just as in my previous life. Lu Mingzhou's mind was consumed solely by the exams. He wouldn't even enter the bridal chamber. Song Yunchu complained to Lady Qin that Lu Mingzhou was a fool. This gossip spread among the servants, and Song Yunchu became the subject of ridicule for a long time. Knowing his nature, I chose not to engage in further disputes with him. For this imperial examination, His Majesty intended to select talent for the new policies. The influence of the aristocratic clans had grown increasingly powerful, posing a threat to imperial authority. The emperor sought to select a cohort of upright scholars to counter those aristocratic ministers. Thus, for this examination, the first criterion was being a scion of an upright family. And second, the answers must align with the ideology of the new policies. Otherwise, all would fail. Though Lu Mingzhou was indeed a scion of an upright family, he clung to those pedantic, outdated clichés. I must remind him. Husband, wait a moment. My cousin mentioned that this autumn's examination questions were set by Grand Secretary Liu. Lord Liu was the runner-up in the imperial examinations of the 6th year of Tianyuan. Though he appears to oppose the emperor's new policies, he has secretly supported His Majesty all along. For this examination, Lord Liu has been entrusted with a secret imperial decree to select talent for the new policies. My lord should pay close attention to the new policies, especially the issues concerning land and taxation. Upon hearing this, Lu Mingzhou snapped, as if a fuse had blown, and bellowed at me, "Shut your mouth." His gaze turned icy, as if I'd committed some heinous crime. I, Lu Mingzhou, am a scholar. Scholars are upright and honorable. What you're doing is deceitful, it violates the way of the gentleman. If word gets out, how could I ever show my face again? Lu Mingzhou's face turned ashen, his teeth gnashing in fury. Hearing this, my own teeth itched with rage. The autumn examination questions, countless scholars would kill to glimpse a single line. Here I was handing him the answers outright, and he dared to lash out at me. It's like a dog biting Lu Dongbin, not recognizing a kind heart. If it were anyone else, I wouldn't bother saying another word. But remembering my past life, after Lu Mingzhou failed the autumn exams, the entire Lu family became like rats scurrying through the streets. Wherever they went, people pointed fingers and whispered, "That's why I must help him. My husband is a scholar, oblivious to worldly affairs, wholly absorbed in the classics. What I'm telling you isn't any secret at all. Even my distant cousin, neither an imperial official nor from a prominent family, knows these things. Does my husband really think others are unaware?" Now I understand why Lu Mingzhou, with his top-ranking talent, failed the exams time and again. The current emperor is vigorously promoting new policies, and the court is in dire need of talent for these reforms. Someone as rigidly traditional as he is, if he doesn't fail the exams, who will? I've heard that in your study, no one else's calligraphy or paintings are displayed, except for one scroll bearing Master Zhang Zai's 4 sentences of Hanku, to establish a heart for heaven and earth, to establish a destiny for the people, to continue the lost teachings of the sages of old, to open an era of peace for all generations. Since my husband holds Master Zhang Zai as his model, why not carry forward his unfinished work? The current emperor's promotion of new policies is inevitable. As a scholar, my husband must recognize their benefits for both the nation and its people. His exceptional talents, if not put to use for the court, would surely be a loss to the state and its citizens. When I finished speaking, Lu Mingzhou fell silent. A long, heavy silence followed. Seeing this, my heart began to race with anxiety. I was about to say something to salvage the moment. But suddenly, he lifted his head, his eyes burning with intensity as he gazed at me. He then bowed his hands to me in respect. "Thank you for your guidance. Rest well, my lady. I shall return to my studies." The next morning, I rose early, as custom dictated, to accompany Lu Mingzhou in presenting tea to her in-laws as a sign of respect. I had assumed Lu Mingzhou, absorbed in his studies, would certainly skip this ritual. To my surprise, however, he was waiting for me outside the door. "Husband, what is this?" Lu Mingzhou spoke slowly, according to custom. "Today we must present tea to father and mother." Lu Mingzhou insisted on accompanying me to pay respects. This was truly unexpected. "Fear not. With me here, father and mother won't trouble you." Indeed, with Lu Mingzhou present, everything proceeded smoothly. I merely went through the motions. My in-laws didn't impose any new rules on me. They merely emphasized that Lu Mingzhou's imperial examinations were approaching and urged me, as his wife, to be more attentive. After the formalities concluded, it was time for breakfast. Midway through the meal, Song Yunchu strode in with two maidservants, her demeanor bold and unapologetic. "Sister, you still have the heart to eat. After being punished by your mother-in-law to kneel all night in the ancestral hall last night, how could you possibly still have an appetite?" Song Yunchu demanded the moment she entered. She immediately pinned a major accusation on her mother-in-law. "Mrs. Lu." Naturally, Mrs. Lu refused to accept it and sternly rebuked her. "Explain yourself clearly. When did I ever order your sister to kneel in the ancestral hall? If you can't clarify this today, don't blame me for being harsh." On the very day of her wedding, making her daughter-in-law kneel in the ancestral hall. If word got out about such a thing, the mother-in-law would surely earn a reputation for being harsh. Her reputation was everything to her. How could she tolerate such slander? Song Yunchu shrugged it off. "Don't misunderstand. I'm not here to avenge my sister. Punishing a daughter-in-law is perfectly justified. Even if she did nothing wrong, punishment is still warranted." Song Yunchu remained immersed in the memories of her past life. In that life, on her wedding night, she had refused to let Lu Mingzhou study. Instead, she deliberately tore his books. Lu Mingzhou slapped her, and she retaliated by scratching his face. Her mother-in-law punished her by making her kneel all night in the ancestral hall. The next day, she stubbornly refused to perform the tea ceremony. Her father-in-law then punished her by making her copy the virtues of a woman 100 times. That's why she started off saying such inexplicable things. She carefully observed her mother-in-law's expression, then glanced at me. She saw my face radiant. Not a trace of fatigue, hardly the look of a bride who'd knelt all night. Song Yunchu's expression darkened. Her father-in-law, Lu Qingshan, a pedantic old scholar, couldn't help but bark an angry rebuke at her insolence. "How dare you? What do you take the Lu family for? A bunch of country bumpkins? The Lu family is a scholarly lineage. How could we engage in such unreasonable behavior?" Facing Lu Qingshan's furious rebuke, Song Yunchu remained utterly unfazed. Instead, a sneer curled at the corner of her lips. "Scholarly lineage? What a joke. You, a failed scholar who spent 30 years failing the imperial exams, still have the nerve to call yourselves a scholarly family. Song Yunchu came here today just to mock me. She thought I'd be punished like in my past life, kneeling in the ancestral hall, copying moral precepts for women. But she saw I hadn't been punished at all. Recalling the torment she endured in her previous existence, Song Yunchu's fury boiled over. So she vented all her rage upon the three of us. And you, Lu Mingzhou, you hole up in your study day after day, pretending to be more diligent than anyone. But you're nothing but hot air. Even if you studied for another 30 years, you'd never pass the exams. You're nothing but a useless fool. Servants! Throw this shrew out of here. Harness the carriage. I'm going to demand an explanation from Song Shitting right now. Lu Qingshan trembled with rage, daring to invoke my father's name and demand an explanation. But Song Yunchu remained utterly unafraid. Lu Mingzhou, who had remained silent, slowly rose to his feet. He first calmed Lu Qingshan before speaking. Song Yunchu, for your sister's sake, apologize and this matter will be settled. Otherwise, I won't bother with your father-in-law. I'll go straight to the prefect of Jingzhou. Song Yunchu didn't understand what he meant by going to the prefect of Jingzhou. She thought he was just trying to scare her. I spoke up to warn her. Song Yunchu, let me remind you, my father-in-law is a scholar. And my husband is the top scholar of the provincial exams. According to the law, commoners who insult scholars should be thrown into prison. You are the daughter of a subject, so your crime is even more severe. This isn't out of kindness. It's because even if this matter reached the prefectural magistrate, it wouldn't lead to any real outcome. After all, the Lu and Song families are in-laws. They wouldn't actually take this to court. Such words were only meant to intimidate Song Yunchu. But Song Yunchu didn't know if Lu Mingzhou was bluffing. She dared not take the risk. After all, in her previous life, Lu Mingzhou had divorced her outright with a single letter of repudiation. After much deliberation, Song Yunchu had no choice but to bow her head. I'm sorry. I was wrong. With that, she turned and walked out without looking back. But after taking just a few steps, she spun around again. Su Ruajin, don't gloat. Let me tell you the truth. Zhuang Henian is actually the illegitimate son of the Marquis of Huainan. The Marquis's only legitimate son died on the battlefield. Now he has only Zhuang Henian as his son. Once Zhuang Henian is formally recognized as his heir, he will become the next Marquis of Huainan, and I will be a first-rank noble consort. When that time comes, you will be begging me. Hearing this, I smiled. Song Yunchu really couldn't keep her temper in check. On the second day of their marriage, she couldn't wait to publicly expose Zhuang Henian's illegitimate status. She only knew Zhuang Henian was the Marquisite's bastard son, but she didn't know that the century-old Marquisate was a web of intricate power struggles, far from the harmonious facade it presented. When the Marquisite's heir died in battle, the imperial court granted the Marquis of Huainan hereditary succession without end, a privilege that could never be demoted. With no male heir in the main branch, the second and third branches were both eyeing the title greedily. Neither of these branches alone could tolerate Zhuang Henian. And then there was the eldest branch's Madame Qin. She would never allow this hereditary title to fall into an outsider's hands. Madame Qin was determined to adopt her maternal nephew into her household, intending for him to inherit this hereditary title. The Qin family held sway within the Ministry of War. Every time the Marquis of Huainan went to war, his logistics relied entirely on the Qin family. With the Qin family securing the rear, the Marquis of Huainan could emerge victorious in every battle. At least half of the Marquis of Huainan's outstanding military achievements were attributable to the Qin family. In my previous life, Zhuang Henian returned to the Marquisate because the old Marquis had first recognized his identity. In the third year of our marriage, Zhuang Henian accompanied the army on a campaign, serving in the Marquis of Huainan's vanguard. When they were surrounded by enemy forces, the Marquis recognized the jade pendant Zhuang Henian wore, a gift he had given to Zhuang Henian's mother in his youth. After escaping the siege, the old Marquis publicly acknowledged Zhuang Henian's identity within the military camp. The Marquis of Huainan had struck first, leaving Lady Ji with no choice but to acknowledge him. But now, before Zhuang Henian had even met the Marquis of Huainan, Song Yun-chu had already brought this matter to light. Unless the sun rose in the west, Lady Qin would never allow him into the mansion. Lu Mingzhou, for reasons unknown, suddenly developed a keen interest in the spectacle, since my cousin is going to claim kinship. Let's tag along and see. We followed the crowd to the gates of the Marquis of Huainan's residence. By then, the place was already teeming with people. Song Yun-chu was arguing with the estate's servants. No important figures from the Marquis's household had come out. What kind of shrew dares to cause a scene at the Marquis's gates? Why don't you take a good look at yourself? See what you've become? Any Tom, Dick, or Harry thinks they can come claiming kinship? Beat her senseless. Not only did Song Yun-chu get a nose full of dust, she was also drenched in swill by the gatekeeper's servant. You pack of dog slaves. Just you wait. Once my husband returns to the Marquis's residence, I shall be the lady of the manor. I'll break every one of your dog legs. Failing to claim kinship, Song Yun-chu was mocked as a common bird trying to become a phoenix. Yet she paid it no mind. For Song Yun-chu knew deep down that Zhuang Henian was the true legitimate son of the Marquis's household. What are you laughing at? Today you laugh at me, but tomorrow you'll cry and beg for my mercy. In her past life, Song Yun-chu became known throughout Luming Prefecture. In this life, she gained notoriety for causing a scene at the Marquis of Huainan's residence. The next day, Song Yun-chu and I returned to my family home together. The Liu family, a scholarly lineage, placed utmost importance on etiquette. 3 carts brimming with gifts were sent, ensuring I arrived with great pomp and circumstance. In contrast, Song Yun-chu arrived empty-handed. Her outburst at the Marquis's mansion yesterday was already common knowledge. At today's banquet, even the usually reclusive relatives had come. Everyone wanted to see this new Marquis. But no one expected Song Yun-chu to return empty-handed. Facing the whispers of friends and family, Song Yun-chu remained utterly unconcerned. Instead, she continued her brazen boasts. These trifles are nothing. Once I become the Marquis, I'll repay mother tenfold. This remark instantly enraged Lu Mingzhou beside her. Our Lu family is humble, these modest gifts are naturally insignificant. What gifts has the Marquis's household prepared for our niece? Bring them forth for all to see. Lu Mingzhou's words were like pressing Song Yun-chu's face into the dirt and trampling it. As soon as he finished, all eyes turned to Song Yun-chu. Her face turned ashen. I said in the future. Not now. A wave of laughter rippled through the crowd. Father and Lady Qin wished they could sink into the ground. Thick-skinned as ever, Song Yun-chu wore an expression of utter indifference. Madame Qin had no choice but to step in personally to smooth things over. She casually diffused the tension with a few words, then ushered the guests inside for the banquet. Once the feast began, Song Yun-chu never showed her face again. Later, I heard it was because father, fearing further embarrassment, had locked her in her room. Only after all the guests had departed did he finally release her. After the post-wedding banquet concluded, locked in her room by her father, Song Yun-chu harbored resentment. She vowed to make him regret it. Her method of making him regret it was to become the young mistress of the Marquis's mansion as quickly as possible. Thus, she frequently visited the Marquis's residence to claim kinship. But each time, she was driven out by servants wielding sticks. To stop Song Yun-chu from causing further trouble, the Marquis's household secretly targeted Zhuang Henian. Zhuang Henian was originally training new recruits at the military camp outside the city. At month's end, he was suddenly reassigned to transport military provisions to Yunsong Mountain. This task was grueling and arduous, a round trip spanning hundreds of miles. There was no reward for delivery, but delays meant punishment. Zhuang Henian wasn't foolish, he knew someone was deliberately targeting him. Yet he hadn't offended anyone recently. The only possibility was trouble caused by Song Yun-chu. Upon returning home, he slapped Song Yun-chu across the face. That single blow silenced her for over a month. On the day the imperial examination results were announced, Song Yun-chu joined the crowd. Amidst the throng, she no longer carried her usual haughty air. Deep sorrow and resentment clouded her brow. But upon seeing me, the gloom vanished from her face. "Sister, Lu Mingzhou is definitely going to fail the exams. You'd better hide quickly," I replied indifferently. "Why haven't you gone to the home mansion to acknowledge your kinship lately? Little sister? You." Song Yunchu's eyes widened in fury. Since she was looking for trouble, I wouldn't hold back. Wherever she felt pain, I would strike. "Don't get too cocky. Just wait, soon you'll be drowned in a flood of scorn." After about half a cup of tea, the results were finally posted. Lu Mingzhou's name was easy to find, first on the very first row. No. Impossible. He clearly hadn't passed. Seeing Lu Mingzhou's name as the top jinshi, Song Yunchu was both shocked and furious. Everyone around her, except her, rushed to congratulate me. Congratulatory voices filled the air. These sounds pierced Song Yunchu's heart like a hail of arrows. So what if he passed? Zhuang Henian is the heir to the Marquis' estate. And I am the Marquis' wife. I will never lose to you. Song Yunchu was consumed by obsession. She glared at me with a look of pure venom, as if she wanted to devour me alive. 2 days later, news suddenly spread outside that Zhuang Henyang had returned to the Marquis' residence. At first, I thought it was mere gossip. Only when Song Yunchu came to find me in the Marquis' carriage did I realize it was true. Song Ruojin, I am now the young mistress of the Marquis' residence. You still couldn't outdo me. I had been puzzled about how Zhuang Henyang managed to return to the Marquis' residence so smoothly. Given the temperaments of Lady Chen and the second and third branches of the family, they absolutely would not have allowed Zhuang Henian back into the mansion. After all, no one could resist the temptation of hereditary succession and an irrevocable noble title. It wasn't until I received the invitation to the heir's wedding that everything suddenly clicked. To return to the Marquis' residence, Zhuang Henian had actually married Qin Duanzi's own niece, Qin Jiaojiao, and as the primary wife, no less. Once Zhuang Henian and Qin Jiaojiao were wed, Qin Jiaojiao became the Marquis' principal wife. Any children she bore in the future would naturally be the Marquis' legitimate eldest son. In this way, the Marquis' residence remained firmly under the control of the Qin family. One must admit, Madame Chen's scheme was truly brilliant. This arrangement made both parties major winners. Only Song Yunchu suffered. Yet, I admired Song Yunchu's courage even more. To remain in the Marquis' household, she was willing to become a concubine. What she failed to grasp was that the cunning and calculating Lady Chen would never tolerate her presence as a mere concubine. On the day of the wedding, Song Yunchu watched helplessly as Zhuang Henian married another woman. During the ceremony, she couldn't hold back her tears. Lady Chen immediately ordered her dragged back to her quarters. Half a cup of tea later, she emerged. Song Yunchu remained quiet and obedient. After that, Madame Chen and Qin Jiaojiao showered Song Yunchu with even more affection. Song Yunchu had to pay her respects to Madame Chen and Qin Jiaojiao morning, noon, and night. The two conspired to torment her. When Song Yunchu came to pay her respects to Madame Chen would deliberately delay. When Song Yunchu then went to pay respects to Qin Jiaojiao, she was immediately greeted with a lashing from the whip. The reason? She was late. Using this single excuse, the two tormented Song Yunchu nearly to death. No matter how arrogant Song Yunchu had been before, she was now within the Marquis' residence. She had no choice but to endure. With the Marquis absent from the residence, Lady Chen held absolute authority over the estate. Thus, the more defiant Song Yunchu became, the harsher her punishment. Song Yunchu complained to Zhuang Henian, hoping he might intercede on her behalf to lessen the severity of her punishment. Zhuang Henian agreed, and Qin Jiaojiao acquiesced. However, The moment Zhuang Henian stepped outside, Song Yunchu was dragged into the woodshed and hung up to be beaten. Hanged for a full day and night. She nearly died in that shed. The next time I saw Song Yunchu was at Lu Mingzhou's banquet to thank his teachers. Lu Mingzhou had achieved the Triple Crown, becoming the new top scholar. On the day of the banquet, Song Yunchu wore thick rouge, yet it couldn't conceal the bruises on her face. I deliberately asked, "Sister, what happened to your face?" "A fall." Song Yunchu answered calmly, as if it were nothing. I pressed further. "How did you fall? How did you get bruises all over?" Hearing this, Song Yunchu hurriedly adjusted her clothes, trying to hide the wounds on her neck and wrists. "I fell from my horse. Everyone in the Ho family excels at riding and archery, naturally. I was no exception. No matter what. Song Yunchu would never show weakness in front of me." After exchanging a few polite words, I made an excuse to leave. Once I stepped outside, Song Yunchu knelt down with a thud before her father and Lady Qin. "Father, mother, please save your daughter. That Qin Jiaojiao is beating me to death." Then, Song Yunchu began wailing about the inhuman torment she endured. Ever since Qin Jiaojiao entered the mansion, she hadn't let Song Yunchu sleep a single night in peace or eat a single full meal. Guilty or not, she'd be beaten first. If the beating amused her, it would continue. If it didn't amuse her, she'd be hung up and beaten. Hearing this, Lady Qin wept while cursing Qin Jiaojiao to die a miserable death. Father sighed repeatedly. Qin Jiaojiao's grandfather was the current Minister of War, and her younger sister was an imperial consort in the harem. The Qin family wielded immense power. Father held only a fourth-rank official position. With his status, he couldn't even enter the gates of the Marquis' mansion or the Qin residence, let alone seek vengeance for his daughter. "Father, please let me divorce him. I renounce all the splendor and wealth of this Marquis' mansion." Song Yunchu finally resolved to abandon the Marquisite's glory. She knelt before her father, pleading desperately. But her father refused. "Absolutely not. You're merely a concubine. You have no right to seek a divorce. Remember this, you were born into the Marquisate, and you shall die as its ghost." Madame Qin knew full well the Marquisate was not to be trifled with, especially since her daughter was only a concubine. Whether divorce or dismissal, she held no such right. Song Yunchu knelt on the ground, calling out "Father." No response. Calling "Mother." No answer. Worse still, Qin Jiaojiao suddenly urged her to return to the mansion from outside the door. "Sister, it's time to go home." I had thought Song Yunchu's life was utterly ruined. Little did I know, the Qin family would collapse first. The emperor's first strike against the aristocratic clans had landed squarely on the Qin family. Embezzling military funds, trafficking war horses, illegally mining silver. 13 charges against the Qin family, each carrying the death penalty of execution for the entire clan. After the Qin family's downfall, Song Yunchu seized absolute control over the Marquis' household. She flaunted her newfound power everywhere, practically wanting to beat drums and gongs to announce to all that she was about to become the Marquise. Unfortunately, Zhuang Henian never once mentioned elevating her to the position of primary wife. On the day of Her Majesty the Empress's birthday celebration, the families of all officials of the third rank and above in the capital were summoned to the palace to offer congratulations. Song Yunchu was among them. "The entire Marquisate is now under my sole command. Before long, I shall be the Marquis' principal wife. Song Ruajin. I've won after all." The moment Song Yunchu saw me, she eagerly boasted about her unchallenged rule over the Marquisate and how splendidly she was living. I was puzzled, why would a concubine be permitted to attend the Empress's birthday celebration? But I soon had my answer. "Madam Song, this Empress first extends her congratulations to you." The Empress summoned Song Yunchu forward to speak. That Song Yunchu could attend such a banquet was already a heavenly favor. Now the Empress herself was personally summoning her. Such favor was reserved only for imperial relatives or the principal consorts of dukes' mansions. Song Yunchu's face was brimming with smugness. "Thank you, Your Majesty. What might the Empress be congratulating me on?" The Empress replied, "I have secured His Majesty's consent to betroth the granddaughter of Minister Cui of the Ministry of Revenue to the Marquis of Huainan. Henceforth, the two of you." At these words, Song Yunchu exploded. She had barely rid herself of one Chen Jiao, and now another was thrust upon her. The mere thought of Chen Jiao sent a chill down Song Yunchu's spine. Without a moment's hesitation, she refused outright. "Impossible. Absolutely not." But she forgot that this time she was facing the Empress, a woman who could not be contradicted lightly. Before Song Yunchu could finish speaking, the Empress's niece, the Princess of Iha, struck her across the face. "Continue slapping her." Eunuchs on either side seized Song Yunchu and began striking her face viciously. How dare a lowly concubine talk back in the Empress's presence? The two eunuchs struck her from both sides. Only when blood seeped from the corners of Song Yunchu's mouth did the Empress speak. "Enough. Iha, you've gone too far. This is someone from the Marquis of Huainan's household." With the Empress's light rebuke, the matter was dismissed. Song Yunchu endured over a dozen slaps. She sat there, unable to cry, unable to show anger. Everyone stared at her as if she were a monkey. Immediately after, the Empress summoned me forward for questioning. "Don't be nervous," she said. "Lu Zhuangyuan declared he has eyes only for you and will never marry another in this lifetime." These words drew envy from many. The Empress then bestowed upon me a golden hairpin. Gazing at the pin in my hand, many previously puzzling matters suddenly became crystal clear. After all these twists and turns, this very golden hairpin had come full circle, returning to my possession. Ever since Lu Mingzhou brought down the Qin family, his official career had soared unimpeded. From a lowly 6th-rank official, he soared to become a 2nd-rank Vice Minister of War, temporarily filling the role of Minister of War. After Her Majesty the Empress's birthday celebration, Lu Mingzhou grew even busier. I often went days without seeing him. His absence actually gave me some respite. But Song Yunchu wouldn't let me rest. Every other day, she'd come flaunting her golden bracelets, jade necklaces. "Song Ruojin, Zhuang Henian says he wants to elevate me as his co-wife. Even if that Grand Secretary Chui's granddaughter enters the mansion, I'm not afraid of her." Song Yunchu danced around, flaunting it all to me. She even produced the official document personally written by Zhuang Henian. "I am finally the main wife of the Marquis's household. Song Ruojin, you've lost after all." Yet before Song Ruojin could even become a co-wife, the Marquis of Huainan's household was destroyed. On the 29th day of the 9th month, during Emperor Tui's 60th birthday celebration, the eldest prince raised an army in rebellion. The 3,000 rebel troops were captured the moment they entered the palace. Zhuang Henian and Lu Mingzhou were imprisoned in the imperial dungeons. All this happened because I had foreseen their plot in advance. On the day of the Empress's birthday banquet, the moment I received the golden hairpin, I knew they were planning a rebellion. I made an excuse to leave and secretly went to see Emperor Tui. In my previous life, Emperor Tui made only a brief appearance at the Empress's birthday banquet. Afterward, he went to see Consort Yen. Consort Yen was a foreign concubine newly brought into the imperial harem by Emperor Tui. At the tender age of 18, she possessed unparalleled beauty, utterly distinct from the women of the Central Plains. Upon meeting Emperor Tui, I immediately stated my purpose. Then, I pledged my own head as collateral. The emperor demanded proof. I immediately informed him of the framed case against the Grand Commander of the Imperial Guards. Then I presented the golden hairpin the Empress had given me. This hairpin had accompanied the Empress for over a decade. never leaving her side. That she would give it to me today compelled his belief. After all, I was the wife of Lu Mingzhou, the Vice Minister of War. Lu Mingzhou currently serves as Vice Minister of War, temporarily filling the role of Minister of War. Both Zhuang Henyin and Lu Mingzhou are among the rebels. The most dangerous is Zhuang Henyin. After the commander-in-chief of the Imperial Guard was dismissed, he temporarily took command of the 30,000 guardsmen. Knowing who the enemy is, the rest is like catching a turtle in a jar. When I appeared beside the emperor, both Zhuang Henyin and Lu Mingzhou froze. They had calculated every possible scenario, yet never imagined they would fall at my hands. I did not set out to oppose them. But the crown prince, he was arrogant, extravagant, and cruel by nature. His faction was entrenched with powerful clans. Emperor Tui had only just purged the scourge of land consolidation. If the crown prince ascended the throne, the people would surely suffer. Starving corpses littering the land. After the rebellion ended, Zhuang Henyin and Lu Mingzhou specifically requested to see me. I went to the imperial prison to draw a final line under everything. Zhuang Henyin and Lu Mingzhou shared the same cell block, but not the same cage. I had Song Yunchu brought over too, saving me another trip. Sister, save me. I didn't plot rebellion. I don't want to die. We're blood sisters. Save me. At this point, it was a death sentence either way. Only then did Song Yunchu think to beg for mercy. But it was all too late. You reap what you sow. How did you know we planned to rebel? In the previous life, no one ever raised arms in revolt. Lu Mingzhou finally admitted he too had been reborn. He desperately wanted to know how he had lost. I replied with 2 words, the golden hairpin. Lu Mingzhou was utterly perplexed. What golden hairpin? I forgot Lu Mingzhou had never entered the palace in the previous life. Zhuang Henyin stepped in to explain, in the previous life, the empress also bestowed her golden hairpin upon her. Unexpectedly, in this life, the golden hairpin was given to her once more. As he spoke these words, Zhuang Henyin felt a pang of regret. In the previous life, when I attended the empress's birthday celebration, she bestowed her golden hairpin upon me. Only afterward did I realize. Her intention was to win Zhuang Henyin over. Therefore, when the golden hairpin returned to my hands, I understood Lu Mingzhou was the empress's man. He had always served the noble clans, not Emperor Tui. The noble clans were deeply entrenched and immensely powerful. I couldn't fathom why Lu Mingzhou, after targeting so many of them, faced no consequences whatsoever. Take the Chen family alone, those 13 charges, each backed by ironclad evidence. I simply couldn't fathom how a greenhorn like Lu Mingzhou had obtained such evidence. Even proof of military horse trafficking thousands of miles away was within his grasp. Only when the golden hairpin returned to me did I understand. All that evidence had been provided by the Empress and the clans. With the Empress commanding so many clans, only they could have assembled such detailed proof. Lu Mingzhou pressed again, when did you realize I had also been reborn? I replied, our wedding night. Lu Mingzhou frowned deeply. What flaw did I show on our wedding night? On our wedding night. When I told you the exam questions, you didn't question their authenticity, you suddenly flew into a rage. That was utterly unnatural. So I concluded your anger was deliberate. You were trying to force me to admit I had returned from the dead. Unfortunately, I'm not Song Yunchu, your empty words couldn't intimidate me. Lu Mingzhou's sudden outburst on our wedding night puzzled me deeply. In my previous life, though we had little interaction, I often heard stories about him from Song Yunchu. My impression was that he wasn't the rigid, inflexible type. When I realized both Song Yunchu and I had reincarnated, I began to suspect he had too. Later, when Song Yunchu first went to the Marquis's mansion to acknowledge their kinship, he volunteered to watch the play. When Song Yunchu was humiliated, A smile involuntarily played at his lips. That's when I knew for certain he really had reincarnated. After getting the answer he wanted, Lu Mingzhou said no more. He knew only death awaited him. Ha ha ha. Who'd have thought you reincarnated too? Did all of you reincarnate? Only now did Song Yunchu belatedly realize all four of us had reincarnated. She glared at Zhuang Henian, demanding an explanation from him. I chuckled. If he hadn't reincarnated, how could you have suffered so much? Song Yunchu's face froze in shock. What do you mean? She stared at me, utterly bewildered. I said, why was he able to return to the home mansion? Why did Madame Chen and Chen Jiajiao dare treat you this way? Don't you understand? Even if Song Yunchu were utterly foolish. At this moment, she grasped something. It was you. You orchestrated all of this. Zhuang Henian. You beast worse than swine. I loved you so much. Why did you treat me this way? Song Yunchu was furious, cursing Zhuang Henian non-stop. But I didn't interrupt. I waited silently for her to vent. Of course. You ruined his grand scheme. If you hadn't exposed his identity prematurely, how could the old Marquis have died tragically at the frontier? How could he have struck a deal with Lady Chen? Had the old Marquis lived, how could the 100,000 Huainan troops have fallen into the Chen family's hands? My voice grew mocking. Guess how he got them back? Song Yunchu had already broken down, leaning against the cell door. Her eyes were vacant. I continued, only by toppling the Chen family could he regain command of the 100,000 Huainan troops. That's why he sided with the crown prince, then had no choice but to join the rebellion. Had you not been so impatient, the Marquis's wife would surely have been yours. Zhuang Henian, who had remained silent all along, suddenly spoke up in protest. No, Ruojin, you're still as sharp as ever. But you've misjudged one thing. Everything I've done was for you. In my previous life, you died horribly before my eyes. It was my failure too. Hearing this, I immediately cut Zhuang Henian off. I refused to listen to his lies any longer. Stop! Zhuang Henian. That bowl of ginseng soup you personally brewed destroyed not only my fertility, but also our unborn child. Zhuang Henian's face froze abruptly. His eyes filled with terror. No! Impossible! You must be lying. If you were pregnant, how could I not know? Before you left for battle, I told you I'd have a huge surprise waiting for you when you returned. Don't you remember? Zhuang Henian's pupils dilated sharply. He shook his head frantically. No. No. I didn't know. If I had known, I would never have. Zhuang Henian curled up in the corner, unable to bear hearing another word from me. Seeing the three of them now, I felt nothing but pity. All their scheming and plotting, in the end, it was all for naught. As I turned to leave, Song Yunchu suddenly roared, Song Ruojin. So your past life was even more miserable than mine. How could I envy you? I'm truly laughable. After the case concluded, Zhuang Henian and Lu Mingzhou were sentenced to immediate execution by beheading, though Song Yunchu hadn't participated in the rebellion. As Zhuang Henian's family member, she was sent to the Imperial Music Bureau to become a courtesan. The absurdity was that the night before their execution, all three hanged themselves together. I surmised. They surely wanted to be reborn, to start over again. I protected the imperial carriage and earned merit. The emperor wished to grant me the title of princess, but I refused. Many daughters of noble families held no princess titles. Alone, without any powerful connections or merits to my name, bearing the title of princess, trouble would surely follow me endlessly. I demanded a sum of money, more than I could ever spend in a lifetime. I settled into seclusion within the capital. This world holds no place for a woman to stand. Wherever I go, Nowhere is as secure as staying within the capital. Currently, Emperor Two-Wei reigns. The Crown Prince remains grateful for my service in protecting him. With these two pillars of support, as long as I don't court disaster, my later years are assured of peace and security. I neither engage in commerce nor make investments. Anything requiring my concern or mental exertion is strictly off limits. I content myself with being a dutiful subject. The end.